Hi there, I'm Matt, and welcome to Matt and Lewis Podcast. This is a one-time recording of our special podcast, so listen and hope you enjoy. So what's in store this episode? Well, today I'm joined by my mate Lewis, and we will be having a discussion on what's hot at the moment in the TV and film industry, the latest films we feel you should check out, and what's worth your time. Our main goal is to cut out the crap and give you a straight talking review of what we think. Finally, later on in the podcast, we will have a special guest who's high up in the industry and should give us his thoughts and opinions on what his favourite movies are. So stay tuned.
So much for the rundown of the podcast, we have decided to focus on some modern movies that are currently available for you to go spend your money on at the cinema. Also, we are going to give coverage of what's good and our personal favourites for Netflix series.
Our choice for the movie that we would like to discuss today is It. It is a 2017 American supernatural horror film directed by Andy Muschietti, based on the 1986 novel of the same name by Stephen King. The screenplay is by Chase Palmer. The first planned of the duology, the film tells a story of 7 children in Derry, Maine, who are terrorised by a monster, only to face their own personal demons in the process. The novel was previously adapted into a 1990 miniseries. I have recently gone and seen this movie. Firstly, let's read some of the critics' reviews. Well acted and friendlessly frightening, with an emotional, affecting story at its core. It amplifies the horror in Stephen King's classic story without losing touch with its heart. It was given an 85 on Rotten Tomatoes and overall has received a 7.2 out of 10 from the average public. Overall, it would seem as though this movie was a success. However, my personal opinion would differ from that of the public's. I would have to say that I did enjoy the movie overall. However, I did think that it was an impressive remake from the old movie with impressive visuals. However, I would have to say that it was far from my favourite horror, as its main selling point was its jump scares, which in themselves were okay, but I felt sometimes they were missing something, and therefore did not have the scare I was looking for, and had no after effect. Like I wasn't scared after, wasn't left thinking about it. However, I would understand this is down to the individual, as my mates that were with me were more scared and probably had a better experience with it overall than I. This movie is worth your time, worth going to see. The jump scares are definitely more effective at the cinema. If you're thinking of purchasing it, waiting for the DVD, I would say, first of all, see it at the cinema. The jump scares were much more effective on the bigger screen. Right, now over to my mate Lewis. He's going to talk to us about what's going on now with Netflix and what series are out.
I'm going to talk about my current favourite series, Luke Cage. Luke Marvel's Luke Cage, or simply Luke Cage, is an American web television series created by Netflix by Cheo Hodari Coker, based on Marvel Comics character of the same name. Mike Colter starts as Luke Cage, a former convict with superhuman strength and unbreakable skin, who now fights crime in New York. The character came around in 1972, and the Netflix series has recently just come around. I would have to recommend Luke Cage because it is entertaining and a good watch. Now time for our special guest, Pat, who has a special background in movie and film. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Pat, and your background, what you do? Your background.
Loved film ever since I was a little kid. Mum used to take me when I was like 3 or 4 years old. It just kind of blew me away, and I knew right from that point that was what I wanted to do with my life. I knew that right from the start.
So how many films have you made?
I've got enough that I've lost count. Hang on. 4 features that I wrote and 4 micro-budget features I wrote and directed. Then 2 further anthology films which I wrote and directed 1 story in each, so that's like a third of a movie each. Major screenwriting credit on another movie that I didn't actually direct myself. And then a recent ongoing micro-budget movie, which is a very strange one. So, so what's that? 6, 7, 8. Call it 8.
So why did you decide to teach if your passion is in specifically like making movies?
It's a juggle, particularly with screenwriting. You're never able to anticipate where your next paycheck how large your next paycheck is going to be and where it's going to come from. I've got a family, I've got obviously a house and stuff like that, and you need some kind of reliability in terms of your pay. I didn't ever want to be in a position where if I sold a screenplay in any given year, I was fine, but if I didn't sell a screenplay, then my family were going to be in financial trouble. So I found that by juggling part-time lecturing with part-time screenwriting, filmmaking, I was able to have the best of both worlds. So I was still able to have a regular income from teaching, but also still be able to stay very active within the industry.
Do you enjoy your teaching as much as the movie making itself, or?
Enjoy
it to some extent?
It's a different discipline, and you get different things out of it. I think that's true, definitely.
Is the whole passion for movies, is that something passed throughout your whole family? Do your kids?
No. It's not something that I particularly got from my family. There were no other real. My uncle was a big film fan, but obviously, I didn't grow up with my uncle. He was an influence on me. He was he's sadly dead now, but he was an author and he was a big fan of horror movies, and so from when I was a kid he used to talk about stuff that my parents would not screen for me. I think I've effectively passed on my love of movies to my kids. Yeah, certainly my daughter would be able to analyse a movie in far more detail than you would expect a 6-year-old to be able to do.
Yeah, alright, brilliant. Thank you very much.
No worries.